You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is season 7 episode 273.
Zak Bagans.
All right, come on. Be a professional.
You really?
Yes. All right, go ahead.
Zak Bagans, Nick Groff answers, PantherTown, NFS closings, and Ghostbusters Firehouse.
Very nice. All right, so anyway, here we go. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's that time of year where we take lots of allergy medicine and hope for the best. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, because it's just awful. Anyway, that's what happens when you get all old and stuff. Like, I can't tell if I can hear myself or not.
I'm not blaming this on allergy medicine.
I am. I don't know what your problem is.
We could do a whole episode.
Of what your problems are?
Yes.
Yes. You do a whole season.
Okay.
My episodes. Mm-hmm. Episodic episodes. Anyway, all right, so our last podcast, we talked about all sorts of interesting stuff, and if you've missed it, you should go back and listen to it, and you can do that in multiple places in multiple ways.
Yes.
You can go to our Facebook page and search for Creep Geeks, and you'll find us there. You can go to our website.
CreepGeeks.com.
And you can find the podcast episodes listed there. YouTube has rolled out a new podcast feature, and evidently after I added about 75 different audio files to the playlist, you could go and select the podcast there and listen.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like, why did they make it so... Anyway, they could have made it a little bit easier, I guess, but it just... It's weird. Anyway, I spent some time doing it, so I hope I did it correctly. But, yeah, lots of different ways to listen, lots of different ways for you to be able to interact with us.
Yeah.
And if you want to call because you're an analog type person, or if you just want to, call during your lunchtime or whatever, as you're sitting in your car wondering what else to do, you can do that. We have a toll-free number.
The phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yes. Toll-free. Roswell area code. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that we've talked about in our last podcast episode was the brewing drama that seems to be occurring. It's so stupid. Between Dakota Ladden, Nick Groff, Zak Bagans, and the whole Ghost Adventures sort of thing, right?
And the whole fan base, apparently. So.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it may be that since we're interested in it, we think everybody else is, and they're really not. Or there may be a bunch of people interested in it. I mean, who knows? But it's something to talk about because evidently this has really been going on for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So when Ghost Adventures got big, at least 10 years. So when Ghost Adventures got kind of big, Nick Groff was, along with Zak Bagans and a couple other people, because I don't really know who all was there. They act like it's just them, but there was other people involved too. You had Aaron and... I don't know if Billy was in there. Anyway, it doesn't matter, right? So Ghost Adventures has been around for a long time. It has gone and surpassed Ghost Hunters and all that other stuff and be one of the only shows that was left
standing after various seasons and changes and lineup changes.
Other shows got canceled, shows, and then, here comes COVID. Everything got all popular again, and shows came back and went away. So anyway, it's been an ongoing thing. But the one thing is that Ghost Adventures has been around for the entire park.
Yeah.
So because we were actually watching a documentary, I do that with quotes, show from 2014, and then we watched one from 2016. We're like, okay, that's really when things really started to sort of pick up for people. Was like, I think 2014, 2016.
Yeah.
Just in general with all this stuff, UFOs, Bigfoots, all that crap. And it seems to be taking a dive because that's what we talked about too. Is like, hey, this stuff is really starting to dip. Because people are like, oh man, what are they doing the shows? And it's like, if the networks aren't making money off the shows, they don't want to put them on.
Yeah.
It's the network's own fault because they've been just inundating everybody with all these paranormal, Bigfoot, monster, ghost hunting, and all these shows. Nobody seems to really have much enthusiasm towards it, right?
That's the thing. If there's no further growth, and I'm speaking from a marketing perspective, if there's no further growth and you plateau and you can't sustain more growth.
So you take your resources and you put them elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. It is what it is. So there was a beef that sort of started with Dakota Ladden from this Destination Fear, where he was basically saying that, hey, it looks like the show is going to be canceled, and sort of allude to the fact that it may be Zak Bagans' fault.
Right, he somehow had a play in it.
Had something to do with it, right? Yeah. And then Nick Groff came out and did a video where saying, oh, well, I'm going to tell you everything. And then this was like the 4th of March, and here it is 20 days later.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, he's done that. So we figured we'd give you an update since we brought up. So Nick Groff did a video explaining everything, or so he says, which honestly didn't really explain anything, but we figured we'd kind of give you the update on it. So far, Dakota Ladden and Destination Fear, along with his sister and the other 2 guys, that show's been canceled. So after 4 seasons, it's not on the air anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And there's people say it's one of the best paranormal shows ever, and everybody does if you have your favorite, but at the end of the day, it's people aren't watching, so it got canceled.
Okay.
So, over the past 10 years or so, Nick Groff has done other shows, Paranormal Lockdown and things like that, and they've come and gone. Right? He did his recent sort of video type response where he talked about some of the things that he was going to address in his last video. We actually played played the audio from his statement last time, and I don't know if we're actually going to do it this time. I might play part of it. It's like 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
To kind of give, maybe put this to a head, but it's such a waste of time because it doesn't really explain anything. Because I'll be honest with you, Nick Groff's response is well orchestrated in a way to, I guess, to keep him from having any kind of legal responsibility here. In other words, he doesn't want to get in trouble.
It is a very composed,
carefully worded, I guess,
and carefully worded response using allegedly picked questions from the audience base.
Yeah. So we are going to play some of it. Let's just let me make sure I got the computer hooked up to the old editing box. In other words, let me turn the volume up, right? Let's see if we can hear some of it.
I never had an NDA. I was not fired from Ghost Adventures.
Actually, let me start it from the beginning real quick.
Okay, let's get into this. I got all your questions. I sorted through them. Let me start off by saying this. I never had an NDA. I was not fired from Ghost Adventures. I never did, quote, a bad thing. I never cheated in a relationship that I was in. I was misled with the ongoing of Paranormal Lockdown. I kept my head up for 9 years. I pushed forward. I kept trying to move on, creating new hit shows. But the previous hosts that I used to work with keep trying to stop my career. So this is my story. This is from my perspective, and now I have to talk about it.
Okay, Rachel asked, this may be controversial, I know, but what was it like working on the GA team after the documentary and Fame hit? Just wondering if rumors are true about you-know-whose ego from experience. I questioned him once about how he treats his team and was blocked instantly.
In my opinion, this rumor is true. I witnessed it firsthand, and I saw him treat people just as poorly. This host was terrible to work with. It was an extremely hostile environment to work in, and also Dakota can speak on his experience with him too.
All right, this is from Glenda from Texas. Aaron has already explained why you were fired. You went behind Zak's back, started a new show without discussing anything with him. Trying to destroy him at this late date will do you no good, except she spelled no wrong.
I did not get fired. That is false. I did not go behind anyone's back. My contract allowed me to produce other shows, just like the other host who I was working with, who produced several other shows. This is simply jealousy, nothing to do with legalities.
There were multiple questions regarding whether or not you believe that you have been limited or blocked from appearing on Travel Channel.
In my opinion, I do believe I was blocked from the network and continuing my shows, specifically because of one host who I used to work with. And the reason I know this is because several executives I spoke to at the network said, I can't come to that network as long as he's there. And also, years later, speaking to Dakota, who finally spoke out about it and confirmed it for me, that yes, when he was filming with this one host at a location, this host came into the room bragging, laughing, saying, ha ha ha, Nick's never going to work in America again because I gave the network an ultimatum to choose him or me. So now having that confirmation, this is the reason I'm speaking out today about it, because finally someone has the guts to talk about it publicly.
Marshmar1 says,
Okay. So somebody has the guts to come out and speak about it. He just said in the beginning that he didn't have an NDA or anything like that. So why didn't he have the guts to come out and say anything?
Because, and this is where I respect Nick Groff, I feel that originally when he first started in the paranormal community, he learned just as quickly as we did that keeping your opinions to yourself is the best way to succeed. So I think he took a civil approach. I honestly do believe that. I don't think...
Okay.
Yeah. But after so much and seeing the growth through drama, maybe he's now deciding to, I'm going to let a little bit out. I really do feel that way.
Okay. Well, I mean, sure. I could see that. But I can also see that he didn't have really anything real to say until Dakota came out and said something. And they're magically both having YouTube channels now. Those are all brand new. So Nick Groff's got a new YouTube channel. Destination Fear is no more, but there is a YouTube channel that's been created for those guys called Project Fear. And they're working together, of course. But at the end of the day, really what it boils down to is the idea that Zak Bagans is a dirtbag and Nick Groff is a victim, and that Dakota is a victim, is what those two guys are saying. The only person who really hasn't said anything about this whole thing is Zak Bagans.
True.
So is what those guys say true? It really depends. If you like the show and you like Zak Bagans and you don't think it's true. If you like to hate on Zak Bagans and you're like, of course it's true. But nobody is really going to know the real deal. And at the end of the day, it's really sort of much ado about nothing. And as far as jealousy goes, I don't know. I mean, is Zak jealous of Nick? Probably not. Is Nick jealous of Zak? Probably not. They probably don't like each other, probably hate each other. But I'm just like, I'm don't care at this point.
We've talked a lot lately about how the paranormal community, UFO community, cryptozoology community is kind of grasping at some straws lately as far as exposure and attention, and how it's kind of feeding into that whole, like, that YouTube 2019, 2020 drama T phase that YouTube went through.
Yeah.
So now it's spilling over, and it's been spilling over for a while in the paranormal community. I can think of several notable people where it was just a lot of mudslinging at others, but it's carried on. And while, yes, I do think in the beginning Nick Groff has been very civil about things, or at least bit his tongue. And Zak is still, we don't have an official statement or any feedback from Zak Bagans on things. It's like the drama is currently being carried out by the fans and that middle level of paranormal people who are siding or providing, because we've been watching a lot of lawyer shows lately, a lot of hearsay.
Yeah.
So that's fueling things, and it's just going to even quicker cause people to be turned off by it.
Yeah. I'm just kind of like, in the grand scheme of things, who cares?
Yeah.
Because really, it definitely takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not one-sided. I don't think this is all Zak Bagans, and it's definitely not all Nick Groff, and it's definitely not, all Dakota. It's a mixture of stuff. You're never really going to hear exactly what's going on. You hear people that say one thing or the other about whoever's involved with this, and when they're asked, do you really know them, they don't really have any, no, I don't know them.
And
so
then
it's
their
like,
TikTok account gets shut down.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so you don't really, all right, so you're just a mouthpiece here throwing words out there.
Yeah.
And at the end, it's like a lot of people were just like, hey, let me use this crisis, this new drama based off old drama to get some eyes on my project.
Which is,
I mean, last time I checked, the
Project Fear.
the Kickstarter on that was like they were trying to get a small amount to get started, and they were like at $150,000.
They are now at $286,141.
Yeah. And the funny thing about this, we've talked about this in our podcast, is that all these shows and stuff that people are really interested in. And we've talked that there is a whole audience of paranormal fans, if you will, right, that are under the age of 30 that nobody even knows exist. And these cats, they don't watch these TV shows. They don't go to events and all that stuff. They're just on YouTube blowing them up like, oh, I like that.
TikTok even.
Yeah. And so the one smart thing that I think Nick Groff is doing is he's trying to jump on that bandwagon, or jump in that arena. I shouldn't say bandwagon. Jump on the, jump in there with them and be a part of that. And I mean, it makes sense to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid's got 200. I shouldn't call him a kid, but he is a kid. Dakota's a kid, and his sister, and the other two guys, they're kids, and now they got about almost $300,000 to make their own show.
And
they should do it.
Yes.
And they should do it right.
What a lot of people don't realize is, I mean, whether this is fueled or like not like drama, like it's, what do you call it? Like reality TV where it's all fake, like the drama's fake. Like this is just some stirred up thing to distract people and cause drama and cause people to get engaged. Behind the scenes, the real enemy, and it's not even an enemy, is television networks.
Yeah.
And media networks. They're the ones who decided to cut shows. Now, granted, they have valid reasons. Not enough watchers, not enough viewers. The interest in the topic is fading. So why don't we stay away from TV networks and things like that? YouTube has always been there. TikTok is hopefully going to stay. Social media is a platform where you can earn your money and make a name for yourself. Break away from TV contracts and show contracts.
I don't know. It is what it is. I hope they all can all stop being butthurt and move on and make some new content for everybody to sort of check out.
Yeah.
But there's no completely innocent parties
drummed
out
up,
of all
that's
of
what
this stuff.
I was looking for the word drummed up. Yeah.
Because I was like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen now. And nothing is going to happen now. Yeah. There's not going to be no, oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. None of that stuff's going to happen. And, just make content. Maybe we'll all be able to see it and keep watching. Who knows? Anyway, moving on. So it was pretty much kind of nothing, much ado about nothing. If you think that, Zak Bagans is a douchebag, then there you go. If you don't, then you don't. Doesn't matter. Right? Yeah. But it did lead me to coming up with a paranormal term of the day, because while I was looking at this, I came across some other stuff.
Okay.
And this sort of piggybacks off of something that we've said in a previous podcast episode. We never really give you the episode number of what it came from, because I can't remember, because we talk about a lot of stuff. But we actually talked about jobs not being real jobs.
Yeah.
And that the conspiracy is that companies don't really want to hire. You know what I mean? They don't really want to grow. They want to keep those profits and everything else that may be liable for. And and this was from the New York Times. It says up to 27% of jobs posted are fake. Where, you can be a perfect fit for that job. You're not going to get it. Because this is the perfect opportunity for a lot of businesses to slim down and trim out with resources and everything else to make themselves a little bit leaner and get even more profits. And at what point does these companies' profits go beyond greed towards they're fearful for the future? Yeah. I kind of think that's happening. We're like, we got to try to withstand the upcoming whatever. So a new paranormal term of the day: ghost job. It's a job that's posted. It looks like a real job posting. It looks like a real position in a company, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah. I couldn't find the New York Times article, but Mashable actually has a very interesting article about it.
There was a bunch of different places.
But they're also saying, and here's the worst thing, like the whole, job creation and stuff like that. They surveyed a bunch of these alleged companies that have, 10 million job openings were created in January. So why haven't you heard back from any of the jobs you've applied for?
Yeah, because they're fake.
So somebody went and sent surveys to these jobs and hiring managers at these companies. 43% of the managers said they post job openings online in order to give the impression that the company is growing.
Yeah.
Another 43 said that they posted job openings to keep current employees motivated.
See, there you go. And that's an okie doke because most current employees, the amount of time that they actually spend looking for job postings, I think that's overinflated too.
But less than 34% actually posted the jobs in order to placate overworked employees.
Yeah. So there you go. They're all dirtbags. So it's like, interesting. So everybody's lying.
Yeah.
Everybody's lying. All right. So anyway, this is something we thought was pretty interesting. This came to us from one of our Patreons. Mm-hmm. Is it Patreons or patrons? I always get that.
So it's Patreon with
and then
patrons.
Yeah. And we got a suggestion before about some UFO footage that was sent to us, and we started looking into it. And then I had all sorts of doctor's appointments where they were cutting things off of me and stuff like that. And guess what? It just sort of fell by the wayside.
Oh, and also
I feel bad about that. It was
Yeah.
pretty neat, but I honestly think that
you were sick, and I had to help a town celebrate its 150th birthday.
yeah, which still hasn't. It's like an ongoing celebration. So we do apologize to
Yeah.
them if they're listening. And I will say they take some amazing pictures on Instagram.
Beautiful.
And then we also have Mr. John Johnson. I hope he doesn't take that the wrong. This guy was great. Oh, by the way, here's John. But no, he brought up something that was very interesting to us. He's done this in the past where we've looked at some things. We actually met this dude at a place affectionately referred to as the body dump, where they found some dead bodies, allegedly, right?
Yeah.
But that whole area has gotten kind of weird. And so he's been giving us sort of status updates because we started talking about Blue Ridge Parkway and Smoky Mountains National Park, and the idea that so many different people come to these areas from vacations or whatever, that there should be a larger number of missing people occurring, but you never hear about them. And then when you start to dig a little bit and dig through other places, you can start to find out that, yes, there are many people missing in national parks. And we're not just talking about missing 411. We're talking about just in general. This has been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And we live relatively close to one of the most visited national parks in the U.S., period.
Yeah.
Like, they have more visitors that go to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park than, like, Yosemite and Yukon. I don't know, just in the U.S. And it is the most visited national park because you can just drive through it. You're there anyway.
Yeah.
But there's like nothing bad ever happens there. It's like, we know that's a lie, because just the sheer volume of people going into that area that have never been there before and that are unfamiliar with riding through maybe a mountainous sort of national park. There's got to be issues there. And we found that there is. Mm-hmm. And relatively adjacent to where that place is, and I don't want to give away anyway, John's close enough to a place that we've been where it's sort of in the area. And by in the area, you have to draw a large circle.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he brought up, this is basically based in Cashiers, North Carolina, is like they're closing down half of PantherTown.
Yeah.
Because we started talking about feral people and missing things and sort of getting to the point where we're like, man, we should go start looking into this stuff. And then he sends us that, and we had sort of started taking a look at it, and it's like, man. And this is one of those things where you kind of really start to wonder, is there really something going on? Or you don't hear anything about it.
Yeah. But,
what?
And I can say this because it happened to me, you don't hear about it because the information isn't easily accessible. And for myself and Pepper, since we hike, like, we went to one of our favorite spots. It's a place called Catawba Falls, located in the Pisgah National Forest. We showed up one day to see a big old sign saying this park closes as of May 1st, 2022, or something like that, and will reopen sometime 2023. But then it showed up on the news. So it was like they post the notices on the Forest Service websites, national parks websites under alerts. And sometimes the local papers will pick it up. Sometimes they won't because local papers are struggling. Local news is struggling. So you don't get these notices.
Yeah.
when we went to the Forest Service website, let's see, Forest Service alerts and notices, there is a full list of closures, alerts, and just other things like North Carolina Department of Transportation highway improvements will affect AT users along specific service roads.
Yeah, well, that kind of started after the idea that people didn't know anything about the parks that should know about dangerous conditions and things like that were put in place.
Yeah.
Which is, 2012 or something like that. But he sent us a couple documents, PDF documents that showed like it's a huge closure area in basically PantherTown Valley, which is like it's spelled PantherTown. And why are they closed? I don't understand why they're closing it. I could not figure out and still have yet to really see any real reason why it's being closed. Possibly bear activity.
Alleged bear activity. First, they put an order in place that if you plan to hike anywhere near that area, you had to have a bear-resistant container or bear canister with you while hiking or in the area. And that's, the bear canisters are for food, The bears have gotten out of control, allegedly, in this area. And that was put in place, I guess, late last year, and it's still in place.
I think around like May 2022, like the third day of May, they put some words in there. But we were kind of kicking around the idea that PantherTown is actually spelled PantherTown.
Yeah.
And they keep saying there are no large cats in this area.
Yeah.
Right. So we had a kind of an idea. I was going to say musings, right? We had an idea while we were eating some fried ravioli, which is super tasty, that what if the reason why they're closing down these areas is not because of bear activity, but because there actually is a large cat community out there.
Okay.
Which is making the dogs go missing and possibly some people go missing, and there's being problems. Because we also found out from digging around and looking that there's talk about reintroducing large cats in the area.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't that be convenient? If you already have a large cat population, but you keep saying that you don't have a large cat population, so how would you make it okay for all these cats to already be there? Well, you bring them into the area, right? So you can say, we need to bring them in, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they're already here, so that saves a lot of money. You just got to close off an area or whatever and say you're going to bring some in. But even then, that was something that wasn't put in stone, and it certainly wasn't something that was like made the news that we could find.
Yeah, and then there's an update. So we were mentioning how alleged missing people. There was a missing woman found in that general area after being missing for a while. Her body, unfortunately, was found somewhere.
Halo.
Yeah, somewhere around March 10th. Now, right in that article, I guess she disappeared February 17th.
Yeah.
So found March 10th. They identified a body. They believe it's hers, and it's a homicide. Now, if you keep going, there's an update, and it says the Pisgah-Natahala Forest Plan has drawn up a lot of objections, and that's relating to all these planned closures. So, an approval for final Pisgah-Natahala Forest Plans was posted online, then it vanished.
Because people didn't like it.
825 eligible objections. So
that's a lot.
Yeah. So they keep trying to close this area with a lot of fight back, especially this late in the season.
You say fight back.
Yeah.
A lot of fight back going on in this one, guys. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. And one thing we have noticed from being here that when you start digging around looking for stuff like this, the information hardly exists. People don't really want to talk too much about it. And it's, I don't know. We've been here long enough to think that there's a lot of stuff that's going on that you just don't hear about. Like it's just people don't talk about it. And it makes you wonder because there are some spots where, the idea that, there's a large chunks of land being acquired by the government for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go down a trail one day, the next day you can't. There's, a fence across it says U.S. government, no trespassing. You're like, why? Why are you here in the middle of nowhere?
Oh,
Of course, it's a deep underground military base, right?
Yeah.
And it stretches, in a couple different places. It's like, oh, you used to be here, but now you moved. Sapari is gone. Now you're over here in Linville.
We have a section just south of us towards like Lake Lure and Blowing Rock or whatever. And that section, when we first got here to North Carolina, was going to be open in 6 months. And it was supposed to be like a learning and wildlife and flora rehabilitation area. I don't know anybody who's been able to visit it yet.
It's just a cover. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. So, we definitely appreciate John keeping an eye, and I'm sure as more things, and he hears, because he's there, right?
Yeah.
The more he hears, the more he lets us know. We did make plans to go out there, and then I'll be honest, the weather got a little crappy, and I'm like, I don't want to be cold or stuck or any of that stuff.
That's the other thing. If you get stuck out here and it's mud.
Yeah. You can, especially if you go to the wrong spot. But
on top of that, it's small rural areas in most places. By the time we get out there and get stuck, it's probably already 7 p.m. and everybody's gone to sleep.
Yeah. We survive in our camper van, but, I don't know. Rock slides happen too. Like when the whole big chunk of Interstate 40 you couldn't go on because of the whole mountain came down. Yeah. Because we had some rainfall. Anyway, it is what it is. So we've been kind of keeping an eye and looking at some things and trying to figure some stuff out, but it's like, I don't know how much information you can actually get unless you know somebody who's in the area. And a lot of it's like, well, if you talk to this person, I heard this from somebody, and it becomes secondhand and it's a thing. But when you go ask, it's like, oh, well, you're obviously not from here, so just as a matter of course, I'm not telling you anything just because I don't know who you are. So it's like, it really is sort of that.
I joined a local trail organization this year. I paid my member dues. And after the first meeting, I walked right up to some of the main primary members and started asking questions. And it was obvious that I'm not a local. So
yeah.
They gave me some very basic information and said, well, you know what trail maintenance is. I'm like, well, is it trail recovery? Is it trail establishment? Or are you looking to revitalize trails that were shut down in the 50s? And they're just like, trail maintenance.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what it is, or maybe they don't know, or I don't know. It seems like a lot of times we want to get more information secondhand from people that see the sign on the van and walk up out of nowhere and go, hey, man, let me tell you this. It's like, all right. So they're like, what do you guys do? Let me tell you some stuff. So we have a story about that in our next podcast where basically somebody came up to us, talked to us, and we closer to home. Yeah. And there's a dog involved. So, yeah, it's a good story. So, yeah, kind of a weird thing, man. So we're kind of keeping an eye on it. And we do have links to everything we talk about in the show notes of the podcast, including the PDF documents that shows the closure areas and the written notice of, hey, guys, there's bears.
Yeah.
What if it's not bears, man? What if it's big cats?
Or feral people.
Could be feral peoples, but, we got a lot of missing dogs, man. I'm sure a bear will attack a dog, but, we always hear about, or, well, not now, but where we're before, we'd hear more about big cats taking dogs and small animals and chickens and, just stuff like that over bears. It seems like a lot of the black bears around here really do have a sweet tooth, and they're like, let me get in your trash can. Let me get in your car.
Yeah.
Let me eat your candy. Let me find a piece of pizza. Let me get in your car and rip it to shreds trying to eat, dried chocolate milkshake off your seat, or find the petrified French fries that your kids have left in there.
My friend who lives in Swannanoa, North Carolina, she was telling me recently one of the other people that she's friends with bypassed their whole little pen of chickens. They have about 8 chickens, and went straight for the Domino's pizza in the trash can.
I would too.
It was like, I'm skipping the clawed chicken fingers and going straight for the Domino's pizza that sat out all night.
Yeah, man. Let me get some pizza. Oh, let me stop by your apple orchard and eat all your apples on my way to your trash can.
Yeah.
It's like you don't hear too much about, well, let me stop and fight your dog and then eat your dog.
Yeah. Which is...
A cat will eat a dog, or a cat will kill a dog, or drag it off and do what they do.
Yeah.
Like a big cat. So I don't know. And you do have like, Wampus cat, and the idea of a Wampus cat in this area. And, there's a reason for it, and there's a reason why PantherTown is PantherTown.
Yeah.
And we have Carolina Panthers. They act like these panthers don't actually exist. Oh, they don't exist around here. You didn't really see a big cat.
There's not
enough. I mean, we've seen a big old bobcat in the yard, big old bobcat in the backyard.
There's not enough population to sustain saying it's an active population.
Yeah, well, how many big cats does it take before it goes where it's not an active population or it's not extinct? Yeah. That's kind of the questions that we have. Is it 100? Is it 50? Is it 300? Is it an arbitrary number that's made up based off location?
It is.
That's exactly what it is.
There's some science behind it. There is. I remember looking it up for Mexican gray wolves. And
I think a lot of it's basically science put in place to justify the grant you got to keep doing.
Don't say that.
No, it's true. It's like how many gray wolves, like you were saying in New Mexico, that it need to be brought into that particular area before you can say we've reintroduced the gray wolves.
Well, it depends, because a Mexican gray wolf has like a roam of like 200 miles or something
those
like
are just
that.
Details made to put in place. You mean you have to say what? You have a thriving population of 3 generations or whatever?
So
when does your grant end?
It's a combination of population, sustainability, distance for each one, because they don't want them to intermingle too quickly.
You're being logical. I'm being cynical. Going, okay, I have a grant that's worth 5 years. Let's make sure it stays in place and is worth 5 years.
Maybe we should apply
because like we caught so much garbage from people that are, from the area when we say, yeah, we went here to go walk around with our dogs and seen a big ass gray wolf that wouldn't let us. Basically, we had to walk out of there backwards.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You didn't see a gray wolf. It's like, I know what a wolf looks like.
Yeah.
I know what a big dog looks like. I know what a big gray wolf looks like because I've seen one. Never seen a dog stand almost 4 foot tall. It looks, wow, you look just like every gray wolf I've ever seen in every scary movie. Didn't care about me. Wasn't scared of you. It basically was like eyeball and pepper. Like, I can eat that.
Yeah, he was eyeballing Ben.
Ben.
That's what made me scared. Yeah.
And it obviously wasn't a coyote because we've seen coyotes.
I've chased off coyotes. So
they got skinny legs.
Yeah.
That was the thing, too. When we left to go to New Mexico for a while, it was like, there's no coyotes in North Carolina, and they are everywhere here, and they've been everywhere here. Oh, they can't cross the Mississippi River. It's like, what? Okay. Well, they obviously can. The Mississippi River is kind of shallow in some spots.
Every time somebody said
like a coyote's not smart enough to catch a ride somehow.
I literally thought of like a coyote with like little swimmies on its legs, little like, floaties.
I always think a coyote's being smart like a fox. Just jump on a barge and catch a ride for a while.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, so we're still sort of keeping an eye on the area, and if we get new updates, then we might have to sneak out there and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And see how many pictures we can take of, U.S. government property out in the middle of nowhere. It's like, what are you guys doing? So see how long it takes for somebody to show up. So we can do the, am I being detained?
You'll be doing that.
Yeah, I will.
So
as I'm locking the doors, it's like, let's go ahead and go. Yes, I don't know. It is kind of weird that they would just shut down that entire area. But the thing about the area is, where they're shutting it down, is it's not one contiguous area.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to shut down this chunk, and this chunk, and then this chunk way over here. And it's like, and there's a road that goes there.
Yeah.
And so it makes me wonder, is that really the closure area, or are you closing off this area because you need to develop it?
Remember,
what makes the area that they're closing off, right, is separated by a large area that's not being closed off? That's not a mountain. I'm looking at the elevation of it. It's not a mountain.
Remember my theory? I said it looks like that's the primary forest road that most tourists would use. So let's close that so that we don't have any liability along that main tourist road. So, and GPS is awful out here, y'all. So it's not like if you're coming to visit for the first time or you're not used to the area, Google's going to give you a better recommendation on a different service road. It's just going to get you lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of those areas where it actually pays to have an old GPS.
Yeah.
Like you keep in your car that actually has maps that's been downloaded to it. That's why we still have one. People are like, you still have a GPS? Don't you use your phone? And it's like, hey, this was 10 years ago. Sure. Mm-hmm. Google Maps was great because you actually downloaded maps. And and I know you can save offline maps and all that garbage, but at the end of the day, an older GPS that still has all the maps saved and it's updated every so often doesn't need to have an internet connection or triangulation off cell phone towers to be able to navigate.
Yeah.
But even then, their accuracy can be sort of off.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Kind of a weird thing. All right. So, do we have anything else to talk about? Yes, we do. So, okay, we're going to take a second and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And you're listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast.
Are you looking to start a podcast? Then see this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify. Get helpful audience building stats and all the support you need to sound your best. They can even do video. Bring your podcast to life and have your voice heard here, there, and everywhere with Libsyn. Again, see our show notes for our unique Libsyn promo code and get podcasting.
There you go. Podcasting's so easy, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a couple more things to talk about. We went to a rock show
Yeah.
purely by happenstance. Had a doctor's appointment where they were cutting something off me, and then it's like, oh, hey. You're like, there's a rock show. And I'm like, please be 30, 40, 50 miles away.
It's 6 minutes
You're like,
away.
it's only 6 minutes. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to a rock show. I actually had a pretty good time just kind of walking around.
Yeah.
Although there was 3 people offered me a chair. And normally I would have been like, how dare ye?
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I'll sit here.
I think it's because rock hounds can spot other people who aren't into rocks.
So like when you go to, what was it? We went to a place one time where they had like recliners for the dudes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a clothing store. It was actually like a crafty store or whatever, like a little spot for the dudes to go sit.
It was a yarn shop.
No, that's what it was. It was a yarn shop. We're like, hey, would you like to sit in this comfortable chair and play on your phone while your wife go looks at yarn?
And jokes on all the husbands, partners, and people who aren't interested in yarn. Most of the pretty blankets or throwovers on those couches were made using yarn from that shop.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
You got us. You got us.
So if you were like, this is a wonderful blanket, I'm
You're
curling
like
up
jokes
with.
on you. How's it a joke on me? Oh, that makes me want to. Anyway, so I went to the rock show with you. We walked around and looked at stuff. We looked at some amazing things that we had in our backyard in New Mexico.
Yeah.
It's like, I've seen that before. And I guess you had a good time. You bought some stuff. You looked at some stuff. You dug through some 10 bins of, rocks and stuff. Everything was from Madagascar.
Which I think is code for,
China.
yeah.
I mean, okay, so it was, I don't even remember what the rock show's name was. It had a name. I took a picture of it so I wouldn't forget.
It was the Magma Land of Sky and something Shrine
But it was
Club.
Magma. It was a Magma rock show.
Yeah,
which
it was.
I don't know what it stands for. But evidently it's a thing. There's lots of rock nerds standing around. And they were all swapping stories.
Yeah.
So that was kind of neat. Got to sit in a chair. I had a good time. We stood out in the rain and looked at more rocks.
It was a smaller show, so there weren't quite as many vendors, but it was a close-knit show because literally all the vendors knew each other.
Yeah, which is like when we go do events for
Yeah.
Bigfoot and stuff, we know everybody there, and they're like, oh, hey. So anyway, going through and putting together some things for the podcast, come to find out that Uri Geller, right, magician Uri Geller, has this paranormal palace that he's selling, this big house he's got for like 8 million pounds.
Okay.
So in American money, it's probably like 12 million pounds.
$12 million.
I mean, $12 million, yeah, it's a lot, right? And it says if you're looking for a property with that bit of extra magic, right, Israeli spoonbender Uri Geller's palatial home on the Thames River there is for sale. Anyway, that's not the exciting part. It is pretty neat because that's waterfalls and a helipad and all this other crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and a giant meditation pyramid.
Where's that? I'm trying to find the meditation.
He's got a movie
pyramid.
theater and all that jazz, but he says, I have strewn rock crystals all over my property that are millions of years old. One of the crystals actually belonged to Albert Einstein, and basically, and that's in the rockery of the house. There's ambiance, there's energy, there's power of healing. So
The rocker.
everything is energy.
Okay.
Even rocks are energy. So definitely the person who will buy the house will no doubt live longer. I mean that seriously. And he was in Tel Aviv. So though the celebrity magician lived there, longer than any of his other homes. He left the UK in 2015 and is now selling the property for $7 million less than it was originally listed for 8 years ago.
Okay.
So it was like a 15 million pound house. Yeah.
Okay.
He basically says you come to a certain age where you want to turn a page in your life, and I thought the best turning page would be coming back to my homeland to be with my people. The house he's selling is special because it has almost anything and everything that someone would like to have, from a helipad to your own mooring along the Thames River, and all these magic crystals.
I'm trying to see. There's no pictures of this rockery that I can find so far.
You just got to take his word for it.
I did find a different website that has like a very wide helicopter or drone shot of the whole place. And I do see the pyramid.
He's got like crystals strewn.
Now, the pyramid in front of it is what looks like a flat, almost Zen garden space. And I guess that's where the rocks are. Joke's on Yuri, though. Most crystals are very, very old, millions of years old, thousands of years old.
You stop it right now.
And that, while that may create an appealing aesthetic, because it's all pretty rock crystal, we went and investigated a church earlier last year, and one of the first things we noticed about that church was the whole parking lot was the high-grade quartz.
Yeah. And there's boundaries.
And that was just a little tiny church. So step it up, Yuri.
So if you've got a few spare million laying around and you're hoping to benefit from the geographical echoes of his mystical energy, then Sonning Court can be just the place. So
that's what we're going by, the quartz tape theory that Yuri's power is now embedded in this house.
Well, I mean, okay, let's just say beyond like the Las Vegas style magicianship that he sort of puts out there, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe if he really does have an idea or knows what he's talking about, or maybe knows someone who knows what they're talking about, and they did, gridding and perimeter boundary and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
I mean, there's a possibility that maybe that is a place that's just basically been set up and the entire place be warded, The aerial
view does look like it would be a good place to grid out. I mean, and
if you've got a bunch of money
that,
and he has it all gridded out to keep the negative energy away, there may be some sort of geo-mystical energy put in place with all this heathen crystals, and he's got money, so.
But if you can't afford,
he's probably not going and picking up. He's not going to a rock show picking up a crystal one at a time. Going, is this a good one?
What I'm saying is, if you don't have $12 million, you can learn about crystal gridding yourself and grid your own home or your own little sanctuary.
Yeah. I don't think people are going to be buying this palatial mansion
just for the crystal gridding.
I wouldn't. You're like, this is great. Let's get no.
I would be like,
it's got a bridge.
Rip out the wall to ceiling carpeting in the movie theater, and
I would not. I would not let you do that. You know why?
It's so ugly though.
It's supposed to look like a movie theater, and what is that plush carpeting on the wall, which is
dampen
what is it?
Sound.
Absolutely, give you that full theater effect.
I would change out the carpeting.
When you turn the lights out, it's fine.
Oh gosh!
I mean, look at those chairs.
That carpet.
You're just a hater.
Burned.
You're just a hater.
Vision into my eyes forever. Now that bathroom though, with that big weird round tub, that's beautiful. So
that's trash. Get rid of it. You mean the lake?
No, not the lake. This big weird round tub that he has in there.
Looks like getting in a big soup bowl, big cereal bowl. All right, so I thought that was kind of neat. So because we went to a rock show and then later on, look, Yuri Geller's got
rocks, of course,
spiritual rocks and stuff. So speaking of spiritual rocks, Ghostbusters was remade, right? Mm-hmm. And it didn't do so well. And then they put out another Ghostbusters movie to bring the original sort of Ghostbusters timeline sort of into place, and it did really well.
Yeah.
It cost them $70-something million to make it, and they made over $230 million.
Good.
Do you remember what it was called?
Afterlife?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it did pretty good, right? Sort of followed on there with Egon and all that. Well, they're, of course, going to make another one.
Okay.
This one is supposed to be called Ghostbusters Firehouse, and it looks like it really is happening. So, filming officially underway for Ghostbusters Firehouse. The Afterlife sequel will be giving us life later this year.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was good. It's sort of a reminiscent time with the other movie. This one sort of carries on, and it's got Ernie Hudson in it. She's going to come back as Winston Zedmore. And then you've got the kids that were in it, like McKenna Grace. Paul Rudd's coming back. Yeah. And, of course, it's being directed by Ivan Reitman's son. So if it comes back, hopefully it'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I liked that movie. And
it was great. A lot of people like that movie. Like, I was sitting there like, oh, it's good. Like original Ghostbusters. We need to watch it again because, the first time you watch it, you're like, man.
Yeah, plus, I think that's one of the few genres or movies or entities from, like, our youth that is going to carry forward. Like, there's no negative, like, looking back on it, ooh, that was a bad movie or it didn't age well,
Well,
like
the remake, I think, is probably going to be the
most controversial.
Yeah, the most sort of downside of it. But, I mean, if you treat the remake like an alternate timeline, kind of like they did with, like, Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
The Kelvin timeline or whatever it is, it sits on its own.
And it's a cute movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of cool. But when you look at the one that followed the original storyline and the characters and stuff and sort of picked up where it left off, it made sense to do. They did it. And now they're having a follow-up with Firehouse. And I hope that they sort of try to carry that along and not go, okay, well, we took care of that by sort of continuing the original cast. Now we've got this new lease to do whatever we want, because if they do that, they're going to put it in the toilet by doing that. So they sort of need to try to carry on
the existing franchise.
Yeah, I'm not saying milk it, but they really do need to milk the existing franchise and maybe they can have the originals come back. Yeah. I don't think Bill Murray is probably going to come back. I don't think they're going to come back because I think the only reason why they came in the first place was the idea was there. They had talked about Timothy coming back, and I think when Ivan Reitman died, they're like, we're going to do it no matter what. Well, I don't know. Maybe wrong. It was like 2021 when this thing was.
And I kind of hope like Dan Aykroyd stays involved in some form or another.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's like the new. I won't say new, but he could be considered a paranormal godfather.
Yeah.
So, because he's super into it, and he's the reason why Ghostbusters.
That is a man.
One of the reasons why Ghostbusters the original was as good as it was because he had a real idea on it. So.
That is a man right there. Where if you had like a 14 conversation with him, you would feel small. Well, I would small compared. He is very knowledgeable about that stuff. Yeah. So.
And he's Canadian, so he's probably going to be nice about it.
Yes.
So anyway, there you go. So we talked a lot of stuff, and had some exciting times.
Yeah.
So it kind of is what it is. But the whole Zak Bagans, Nick Groff, answering with this video and all that stuff, sort of really much do about nothing. We talked about PantherTown and kind of getting an idea of what's going on with that, which is kind of weird. Right? Mm-hmm. And, of course, Ghostbusters Firehouse and Uri Geller's Magical Crystal Palace. So, I don't know. Also kicked around the idea that really secret these big cats are coming back to North Carolina.
That'd be kind of cool.
Because they've never left. So, anyway, there you go.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. Everything we talk about, show notes has links to everything. If you want to reach out to us, contact at CreepGeeks.com or reach out to us on social media. Join our Facebook group. We're fairly active in there. And just say hi. Give us some show ideas or some suggestions or even just give us a hello. Yeah.
Yes, and if you're interested in trying YouTube's new podcast feature, we have done all the gyrations to hopefully make it happen, and you can listen to podcast version of our show, which I think really is just the same version we always put on YouTube, because we do put YouTube, we try to make it listenable, so if you want to just listen to the podcast whilst you're doing other things, you don't have to actively be involved in it. So it kind of is what it is, but we are available on all platforms. Anywhere you can hear a podcast, you can hear us. And so if you do listen somewhere and you'd like to rate us, we'd appreciate it. But anyway, good to hear you.
Yep.
Good to see you. Anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Bye, Sickle.
Bye.